Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Sports Memories Podcast. I'm your co host, Tim Hannon, and with me, as always, is.
Steve Wirt.
And this episode is inspired by a quote from Yankees pitcher Lefty Gomez, who famously said, "I'd rather be lucky than good." So, we're going to talk about some times where our Pittsburgh teams benefited from some good luck.
Nah, we're never lucky. We're skilled.
And it's a great quote from Lefty Gomez there, because I mean the implication there is kind of saying that, if you win because of a lucky bounce or some mistake by your opponent, then sometimes that trumps all that skill, right? It's sometimes you just need that luck to get over the hump.
Yeah, I've always heard that luck is, what is it, when preparation meets opportunity.
That's correct. That would have been
Yeah.
another good title for this episode.
Yeah.
Uh, Lefty Gomez, by the way, has a bunch of interesting quotes. We'll post a link to Lefty Gomez quotes if you're so inclined to go check that out later. But for now, let's talk about some of those instances. We're going to start with
No.
the 2004 playoff game for the Steelers. So in 2004, the Steelers have a dream season. They go 15-1. They're the number one seed with home field advantage all the way through the playoffs. We've done an episode about that season previously. Their first round opponent is the New York Jets, who squeezed into the playoffs. And it's a team who the Steelers had just beaten about a month earlier. So that should be an easy win, right, Steve?
Sure. If you say so. I know where this is headed. Yeah.
Rookie Ben Roethlisberger, he does not have a great game. He throws a pick six in the second half. And by the time we hit the 2-minute warning, the game is tied and the Jets are lining up for the go-ahead field goal. So out comes kicker Doug Bryan to attempt a 47-yard field goal for the Jets.
Is it long enough? No, it hit the crossbar. 46, it would have been good. 47, too long. Oh, my.
So Doug Bryan misses. And to be fair to Doug Bryan, that was a tough kick. It was 47 yards. It's January. It's that terrible 2000s era surface at Heinz Field. So the Steelers do catch a huge break. Right now, he misses the field goal. They have plenty of time to get into field goal range and win the game on their side. But Ben throws another interception. And this time the Jets return it deep into Steelers territory. Now New York can try another field goal. And this one's even closer. It's 43 yards instead of 47. And remember what you heard Dick Enberg say after that first one?
Yeah.
It literally hit the crossbar. They just needed to be 1 yard closer. And now they're 4 yards closer. So they actually even have time to take a knee so that they can do that whole thing where they set up the spot on the field where they want to kick it from. So now everything's lined up for the Jets. This one's also at the buzzer, right? The other one would have still given the Steelers time to win. This one's going to be at the buzzer. It'll send the Jets to the AFC Championship game, a monumental upset in Pittsburgh. Let's hear what happens.
Crowd will tell you whether the Jets win. He missed it. Well, let's play some overtime.
The game, yeah, he misses again. The game goes into overtime. Jeff Reed connects on a 33-yard field goal, and the Steelers go to the AFC Championship game instead of the Jets.
Well, but I think Doug Bryan is not a kicker anywhere. I don't know. He wasn't too long after that. I don't know. I remember somebody, like a fan, put him up on eBay for like 2 cents or something. It was like the bid.
Yeah. I mean, and missed field goals happen in football, but Steve, I don't know that I've ever seen anybody.
Missed 2. Yeah.
In the final 2 minutes of a playoff game.
Yeah, that was like, yeah. If you were praying that he missed one, your prayers were answered, because that was I remember thinking they were lucky to win that, but sometimes you get to break and then you move on and you play a better game and you win the Super Bowl. But nope, that was more of like how the Steelers were going that season. Maybe they were just not quite ready for prime time. So
Yeah, but I mean, boy, them getting past the Jets was they
Yeah.
caught quite the break there just to get past that game.
yeah, and that's often forgotten but that was another thing. Like, oh, this is just our year. When he missed that second one, I thought, oh, this is just our year. We're not going to lose. So, and it wasn't our year.
It wasn't the Jets year either, but then again, it's the Jets year. So
Well, they should be doing better with Aaron Rodgers, right?
yeah, I'm sure that'll work out.
Why do they keep
Right.
picking up like old Green Bay quarterbacks? Is that just what they do? I don't know.
The simple answer to your question is that they're the New York Jets.
All right, gotcha.
All right. So speaking of overtime games against teams from New York City, in 1991, the New York Rangers had a 12-game lead in the Patrick Division standings late in the season, but the Penguins battled back. And by the time the two teams meet at the Civic Arena on March 21st, they're neck and neck in the standings. And you have to remember, in 1991, the Penguins had never won a championship of any kind, not even a division championship. So this was a big deal. There's only 5 games left in the season at this point. The Penguins actually haven't even clinched a playoff spot, much less won the division. But here they have a chance to dethrone the Rangers. And if you remember the hype for this, it was really being billed as one of the more important games in team history up to that point. So I honestly don't remember more hype for a regular season game, probably before or since then. And it ends up living up to that hype. It's a great back and forth game. It goes into overtime, and the Penguins win the opening faceoff in overtime. And Penguins winger Kevin Stevens, he has the puck. He just kind of dumps the puck down towards the Rangers end of the ice. One of those things where I'll dump it down. Maybe somebody can win a puck battle, along the boards or something. So let's listen to what happens.
Here's Stevens, though, down the right wing into the Rangers end. Shoots it wide of the goal. Van Beesbroek was played. It went in. Van Beesbroek went up his glove and it went in. Penguins win the game, I believe. It went off the glove of Van Beesbroek. The Penguins win 5-4. Oh, she wants to sell my monkey.
I miss Mike Lang.
I do too. And you want to talk about a team of destiny.
I like Van Beesbroek argues like, no, he didn't go in.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened
What
there
an
was
absolute garbage goalie he was. I don't know. I never thought he was. I've heard people, oh, he was good. It's like I never thought that guy was any good.
he had his moments, he was playing for New York and then later Florida, but that was not one of his best moments because the puck just bounced off the boards and it took this really odd bounce right to the corner of the net, and he tried to put his glove on it, but he kind of bobbled it across the line into the net, and the Penguins win the game in overtime, probably one of the most improbable victories ever. It clinches a playoff spot for the Pens, which is, like we said, a big deal. Up to that point, they hadn't ever won anything. That also propels them to the Patrick Division title, and that spring, they go on to win their first ever Stanley Cup. So Beezer bobbling the puck is quite a lucky moment.
Yeah, I would say so. That was I don't know what to say. Like John Van Beesbroek, like I remember him with Florida too, and not being like, if he was in goal, he was like one of your goals you ever worried about. But good for Kevin Stevens. And did they win the division after that? I think they did.
They won the division,
Yeah.
and they won the Stanley Cup.
Stanley
They had
Cup,
only made the playoffs twice in the previous 8 seasons before that.
Yeah.
which was a
One
big
of those
deal.
was they lost to the Flyers, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, that's why I said it's hard to sort of put yourself in that mindset of why would a regular season game mean so much?
Especially in hockey when it doesn't mean
Sure.
much. Yeah.
But at the time, it was significant because again, that was sort of a turning point for the team. Winning that game was huge, and winning it on such a lucky, fluky play. So that was the Kevin Stevens miracle shot, and the Penguins, like I said, go on to win the Stanley Cup that year. So let's complete the New York trifecta here of Pittsburgh teams getting lucky against New York teams. let's talk about the 1960 World Series Game 7 at Forbes Field. Of course, we all know about this game. Bill Mazeroski hits the famous home run in the bottom of the ninth inning to win the World Series. Steve did a whole episode about that. And what a lot of people rarely talk about, and which Steve also covered in detail in that episode, is that the Pirates are actually losing that game 7-4 in the bottom of the eighth inning. And Bill Verdon is up with a guy on first, and he hits the ball right to Yankee shortstop Tony Kubek. So it's going to be a double play, which means that when Maz would have come up to the plate in the ninth inning, he probably would have been down by 3 runs. And if he hit a leadoff home run, that certainly would have helped get the Pirates back into the game, but Pirates still probably would have been down by 2 runs. So here's what happens when Bill Verdon hits a ground ball to shortstop.
Here's Bill Verdon. Fly to left, single to right to drive in 2 runs and grounded to second. There's the ground ball hit to short, knocked, and it hits Kubek in the face, and all hands are safe. The ball took a hard hop. A double play ball bounced up and hit him in the face, all hands safe.
How about that? Yeah, that sucks to be Tony Kubek. I think I also said that somebody like talked trash on him later, and like there's another World Series. They went up and said "rock" to him, like poor Tony Kubek. He just couldn't catch a break.
Yeah, but, that was pretty bad. I mean, it hurt him really bad too.
He came out of the game. Yeah, he couldn't continue. So
yeah, he has blood coming out of his mouth, and the doctors who tend to him actually think at first that he might need an emergency tracheotomy. That's how bad his injury is.
Well, I mean, that getting hit with a baseball at speed probably, I mean, The Rock in Forbes Field deserves a mention. Is it in the Western Pennsylvania Sports Museum somewhere? Here's The Rock that was in the infield of Forbes Field in 1960. And that would be the most Pittsburgh thing, though. Yeah,
it would be. There is some debate about what it hit. I've heard so a lot of people do think it was a rock. Some people said it was a hole, like there was a hole in the dirt that it hit.
Oh, jeez.
It hit a little bit of not obviously not like a gaping hole, but like a little kind of a divot. But of course, everybody being safe, that opens the door for a huge inning. Hal Smith hits that 3-run home run. And all that is what makes the Mazeroski moment in the ninth even possible. None of that happens if not for Kubek getting hit in the throat. Kubek says years later, quote, "It was a terrible infield. It was like the beach at Normandy, half sand."
What the heck?
Half sand, half pebbles, and they never dragged it.
Nice.
So I don't know if he's kind of insinuating that they I don't know that he's insinuating that they did something on purpose, because I mean, if you didn't drag the infield and it was rocky, it's gonna hurt
for the
us.
Pirates too.
Right.
Not like they're just dragging it when we're up to bat.
Yeah, exactly.
When we're playing the field.
But I mean, it is the responsibility of the home team to take care of the facilities. And, Kubek thought that the Pirates failed in that, and that, he suffered a pretty bad injury. And obviously the Yankees lost the World Series because of it. But hey, we'll take it. We won't complain.
Yeah, not too much. Sucks to be you. Enjoy your 26 other World Series titles, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, really. Give us
yeah.
Yeah, we needed a lucky hop here and there. All right, let's talk about the Steelers again. 1997, the Steelers and Patriots are both battling for the AFC's number 2 seed for the playoffs, which in those days meant a bye week and a home game in the divisional round. Right? If you finished with the 1 or 2 seed, you got that bye week and home game. And as luck would have it, no pun intended, they're playing each other at Foxborough in the penultimate game of the regular season. So whoever wins that game gets that coveted number 2 seed. And late in that game, it really looks like that team is going to be the New England Patriots, because they have an 8-point lead. There's only 2 minutes and 7 seconds left in the game. They have the ball, and the Steelers happen to be out of timeouts. It's 3rd and 7 from around midfield. So what do you do here if you're Patriots head coach Pete Carroll? I think there's 2 options with 2:07 left. You can run the ball, which is probably going to get stuffed, and then you would hit the 2-minute warning, which would stop the clock, and then you could punt and pin the Steelers deep with no timeouts. And that would have been a decent strategy. The Patriots have an 8-point lead, so you'd be forcing the Steelers to drive the length of the field with no timeouts to score the game tying touchdown. You can also attempt to go for the first down, which, if you're successful, means you can just take a knee and the game's over. What you absolutely do not want to do there is to turn the ball over. So Pete Carroll says, you know what? We're going to go for the win. Let's try a pass. Quarterback Drew Bledsoe drops back to pass, and
3rd and 7. Bledsoe throws, intercepted. It's Keevan Henry, the defensive end. And what a mistake by Bledsoe.
yeah, so Bledsoe gets some pressure from the Steelers lineman, kind of does a panic throw out to the flat, and the ball is picked off by Keevan Henry, who is a nearly 300-pound defensive lineman. Not a guy you would normally see making an interception, and he rumbles down the field. That sets up Cordell Stewart hitting Mark Bruner for a touchdown, then hitting Yancey Thigpen for the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
To overtime.
That was a really good game.
It was a great game. And then in
Yeah.
overtime, Norm Johnson wins the game with a 31-yard field goal. So now the Steelers have stolen this game in New England. The play at the time was dubbed the Immaculate Interception. I don't think that really stuck, but that's what
No.
people were calling it at the time.
Yeah.
And it was huge because, as expected, those two teams meet again a couple of weeks later in the divisional round. But it's at Three River Stadium, thanks to the Steelers pulling out that victory. And the Steelers are able to squeak out a 7-6 win.
I remember that game. Ugh,
Yeah,
that was
thanks.
yeah.
But them having the week off and having the home field advantage,
Yeah.
really helped them.
I think everybody on the Patriots was hurt too, like all the receivers and stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, well, it would have helped to have a bye week, right? And they didn't.
Adam Vinatieri, I think, missed a field goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So that game ends up being pretty huge, and Bledsoe just throwing that. Again, it's like it's third down, and all you're trying to do there is get a first down. Just be very careful with the ball. Even if it was incomplete, you could still punt. But it didn't work out that way. Ironically, Pete Carroll would be in a situation years later where he was faced with a similar decision on whether to run or pass, and this time it was to win a Super Bowl. And he also chooses pass in that scenario, and the result is also
An interception.
An interception. Yep.
Hmm.
Steve, do you remember where you were when you were watching?
Yeah, I was watching it with you, Tim, and yes, I may have yelled something that wasn't very nice to Keevan Henry, but that should have been a touchdown. Like they said it was a forward lateral there at the end.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but what happens on the
Yeah.
play is Keevan Henry gets caught from behind because he's a 300-pound defensive lineman.
Yeah, and he's not running it's like he's running in slow motion.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so he tried to lateral the ball to somebody else, and the other, I think it was Orpheus Roy.
It was
of the
Roy,
Steelers.
yeah.
And Orpheus Roy takes it into the end zone, but the referee said rolled. There was no instant replay back then. So the referee said ruled that was a forward lateral, which was a borderline call. And so the Steelers then, they had the ball at like the 8-yard line instead of the touchdown. But like we said, they scored anyway. And that mistake by Bledsoe, I mean, it just really, I feel like that was kind of the end of that Patriots era. The Patriots never really got that far again because they had been in the Super Bowl the year before.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the ceiling for Drew Bledsoe. And then, of course, a few years later, Pete Carroll gets fired and Tom Brady comes in and with Bill Belichick. And then they become the New England Patriots that we all know and don't love today.
No, and despise. I don't know. Well, I think, yeah. I mean, it's nice to see the Patriots go back to sucking. And it was, I like Pete Carroll. I mean, I liked him at USC, in Seattle. I mean, they won in Seattle. I mean, except for that, yeah, that was unfortunate. Maybe he should have run Marshawn Lynch, but I never realized that until you just said that, like how in those situations he's elected to pass. But I mean, I think Russell Wilson is a mite better than Drew Bledsoe, but it's
same result, unfortunately, for
Yeah.
Pete Carroll.
Well, that's the genius of Bill Belichick, I guess. Sure. Sure.
All right. Let's go back to the ice and talk about one of the Penguins' big rivals. It's the Washington Capitals. The Penguins and Capitals have met in the playoffs 11 times. And the Penguins have won 9 of those 11 series.
That's unreal.
It really is. I mean, it's such a one-sided series. And I have to say, it's it's the Penguins have obviously had the better teams, but it's hard. I don't think you win 9 out of 11 without at least a little bit of good luck. So with that, we're going to present a Washington Capitals trilogy of bad luck. And we'll start in the 2000 playoffs. The Penguins and Capitals are playing in the first round in Pittsburgh, and it's an elimination game for Washington. And it's a tie game in the third period when this happens.
Everybody else is kind of just falling away and just trying to pick all the passing.
Oh, the Penguins just scored. Yager will get it. It came off the body of Johansson.
How did it even go in?
2-1. And only the don't know whether to cry or wind his watch.
How'd that go in? Who'd that go off of?
So Jaromir Jagr is along the boards. He's just trying to throw a pass across the ice, and Capitals defenseman Collier Johansson just kind of turns his body and kind of kicks the puck into the net. And it's not one of those, like, usually when it hits off of a guy and goes into the net, it's because the guy is standing right by the net and it was a shot and it was a lucky bounce. But Jagr wasn't even shooting the puck at the net. He was trying to pass it across the ice, and Collier Johansson ends up accidentally kicking the puck into his own net. That ends up being the game-winning and series-winning goal, Steve.
Yeah, he was standing like 10 feet away from the net. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
Yep. Well, the luck doesn't stop there, because the next year, the Penguins and Capitals are at it again in the first round. And this time we're in overtime of game 6. The Penguins are making a line change, and another Capitals defenseman, a guy you may have heard of named Sergei Gonchar, he's slowly bringing the puck out of his zone, but he misplays the puck. And unfortunately for him, there's a Penguins player standing right in front of him.
Here comes Straka with a chance against Kolzig. Back in, he shoots and scores! Marty Straka wins it in overtime for the Penguins. And ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. Penguins win the series 4-2.
That looked like a good play by Straka more than a bad play by Gonchar. I don't know.
Well, it's a bad play by Gonchar because Straka never touches him. I mean, Straka certainly skates up to sort of intimidate him. Straka did not take the puck off of him.
He kind of fell over. I don't know.
It was definitely an error by Gonchar. Like, bringing the puck out of your zone is the most basic thing, right? You can either take it out yourself or you just pass it to somebody. But what you can't do there is kind of stumble over your feet and give it right to it. That's one-on-one against the goaltender. And Straka did make a great play there. Not taking anything away from him, because he once he got the puck, he had to beat Olaf Kolzig, who was a Vezina winning goaltender. But
yeah, that doesn't seem to matter with the Penguins for some reason.
Very true.
Yeah.
But I mean, Gonchar fumbling the puck there was not good. And again, that's the game-winning and series-winning goal in overtime. So 2 years in a row, a Washington defenseman makes a mistake that literally cost the Capitals the series. But like we said, this is a trilogy of Capitals bad luck. So let's fast forward 15 years. The Capitals and Penguins are again meeting in the playoffs. This time we're in the second round, and this time we're in game 4. And once again, we're in overtime. And once again, it's another Capitals defenseman who makes a fatal error.
Now along for Sheary, through one in front. Off of Weber, shot, score! Hornquist has ended the game!
Shot on goal, it never gets to the goal. Mike Weber stops it, and it grows right to Patrick Hornquist. He's trying to get it away from danger. He thinks he has it out of danger, but he doesn't. Hornquist threw the wickets on Braden Holtby, and there's another piece of overtime magic for the Penguins.
He did literally pass the puck to Patrick Horn.
Yep.
It really wasn't it wasn't a bad play. He was just trying to play it to the corner, and just Hornquist was standing there.
Yeah, none of these plays are guys making necessarily like boneheaded decisions or anything. It's just unfortunate bad luck. Again, that's because
that's what you want to do. Like, because if you look, I think that Crosby was hanging out around the net. It's like, okay, try and get it away from him, and it just
Yeah, and that was Mike Weber, the Capitals defenseman. Like Steve said, just trying to get the puck out of danger, doing his job. But boy, he gives it right to Hornquist, and that's game. So yeah, the Washington Capitals, 9 out of 11 times losing the Penguins. Definitely some luck there for the Pens to help them along. All right, for our next one, we're going to talk about. We're going to go to the year 2010. And the Steelers are playing at Buffalo. And at this point in the 2010 season, the Steelers are 7-3. They're trying to keep pace with the Ravens for first place in the division that year. And the Bills, they're pretty bad, but they've recently gotten hot. They've won their past 2 games thanks to the heroics of quarterback Ryan Fitzmagic and then a wide receiver named Stevie Johnson. And this Stevie Johnson, this receiver, a few weeks before that game, he had 8 receptions for 158 yards against Baltimore. Then 2 weeks after that, he has 11 catches for 145 yards. And then the week after that, he puts up 3 touchdowns against the Cincinnati Bengals. So at this point in time, Stevie Johnson is Gary Rice. I mean, well, he really was.
I mean, for 3 games, I guess.
Yes, yes. It was short-lived, but I mean, he is just lighting the league on fire. He and Fitzpatrick have a very special connection. So when the Steelers match up against Buffalo that week, I mean, they have to pay a lot of attention to Stevie Johnson. And again, Buffalo, not a good team that year, but they, like we said, they were starting to get hot. And that's really in the NFL. It doesn't really matter what your record is. It's just really about how you've been playing the last few weeks. And in fact, the Bills take the Steelers all the way to overtime in this game. And in overtime, the Bills have 1st and 10 on the Steelers' 40-yard line. So that means that they're almost in range to win the game with a field goal. But Buffalo head coach Chan Gailey, who, as we know from his days here in Pittsburgh, is a pretty smart offensive coach. He sees an opportunity to win the game right here. He thinks the Steelers are going to be playing for a run or maybe a short pass, right? Because it's 1st and 10 and they've got to get in field goal range. And he thinks that the Bills can exploit them with a play action pass and a deep ball. And sure enough, Chan Gailey is 100% correct because Stevie Johnson is wide open behind the Steelers secondary.
I think I remember this play.
1st and 10. LaVitre with a nice block at the guard. Going deep. He's got Johnson. Oh, he dropped the ball. That would have been the game winner.
And we said that Fitzpatrick was fearless. He takes a shot down the field, working against Taylor with Clark coming over, and all he has to do is hold on to it, and the Bills are going to have their 3rd consecutive win.
I think the Steelers did end up winning that game, didn't they? Yes.
They do. I mean, that was really the worst part of it because the Bills do not get into field goal range.
Yeah.
And then the Steelers kick the game-winning field goal on the ensuing possession. And if you watch the clip of that, I mean, it is sometimes you look at a guy that drops a pass and you're like, well, he was trying to jump or he had to extend his arms out. That was right in his chest.
It was a perfect pass, yeah. And he ran a nice route. He beat Ike Taylor pretty good.
Well, that's what I mean. Chan Gailey, brilliant call.
Yeah, Ike Taylor tried to grab him even, and he kind of just swatted him away. Yep. And
yeah, it was a brilliant call, perfect pass, everything set up
except for the
perfectly,
catch,
except for Stevie Johnson dropped it. I love the quote. Casey Hampton after the game said that he had put his helmet on. He was on the sideline for that play, and he put his helmet on and started walking to the locker room, and people started yelling, "Wait!" He dropped it. Like he was literally, when the ball was in the air, it was such an obvious touchdown that he literally put his helmet on and started walking away. That's how obvious of a play it should have been. After that game, Stevie Johnson goes on Twitter to place the blame squarely on God.
Wow, that's an odd.
Yeah,
I was figuring he was going to blame Ryan Fitzpatrick or Chan Gailey. Wow, the God or not, or
here's
Vishnu or the football gods or Baal.
Here's this quote: "I praise you 24/7, and this is how you do me. You expect me to learn from this? How? I'll never forget this ever. Thanks, though."
Wow, really lost that drop made him lose his faith.
Apparently
Ouch.
so, yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he found it for his own sake. I mean,
I hope so too. Well, I mean, heat of the moment, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
boy, yeah. And Stevie Johnson never really, like we
He
said,
never
had
did
a-
anything after that. Yeah.
No, that was kind of the end of his little run of greatness. So it was kind of sad for him because it was just such a terrible drop. And again, that was the game. Like they were going to upset the Steelers, and it was right in his arms. But I mean, you want to talk about lucky breaks for a Pittsburgh team. The ball was right in his hands, and he dropped it, and the Steelers end up winning. All right, let's talk about the Pirates and Braves playing in the 1991 National League Championship Series. It's Game 5 in Atlanta. At this point, the series is tied 2-2, so it's that typical, pivotal Game 5. It's that series was also a very tight pitchers duel. I'm sorry, that game was also a very tight pitchers duel. Runs are super hard to come by. In fact, 3 games in that series would have the final score of 1-0. That's what kind of series it was, just hard to score. But in Game 5, Atlanta has a really good opportunity in the 4th inning. David Justice for the Braves, he's on second base, and Mark Lemke is at the plate against Pirates pitcher Zane Smith.
Lemke drove home only 23 runs this season. And that's a hit. And we've got a play. Bonds can throw, but he double pumps. 1-0 Atlanta. But I think he missed third base. He missed third base. They step on third. Out is the call at third base. No run. The inning is over.
Wow, about 6 things went wrong on that. Barry Bonds not being able to throw out somebody at the plate. Wow, I don't think that'll ever come back to haunt the Pirates in Atlanta.
Yeah. Bonds made a bad play on that, and Justice should have scored. But as you heard Jack Buck say in that clip, he missed third base, and that's, if you see the replay, that's literally what happened. He stumbles coming around third, and his foot misses the bag, and he's out.
Well, David Justice, he'll help season ticket sales in April and May, but come the dog days, you'll be lucky if he hits his weight.
Was that a Moneyball clip?
Yes.
I figured.
Yeah.
So
you'll be lucky if he steps on third base in the dog days, Tim.
Yeah, that ends up being big because the Pirates score in the 5th inning on a Jose Leaned RBI single, and that's the ball game. The Pirates win 1-0, and they take a 3-2 series lead with them back to Pittsburgh.
Don't worry, they'll lose.
Right. I was just going to say, unfortunately, that RBI single by Lean, it's the last run that the Pirates will score in that series.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Because they're shut out at home in both Game 6 and Game 7. So.
Well, maybe if they had like the guy that had the career all-time home runs, maybe that would have helped.
Yeah, if only he would have been there, but he didn't. Yeah. He didn't really show up for that series or for the other 2 that they were in. Unfortunately, to be fair, neither did a lot of other guys on that team. So.
Neither did Andy Van Slyke or
Bobby Bonilla
Bobby Bonilla this season at least. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, when Jose Lean's getting your game winning hit, that's That's a sign of bad things.
Chico's clutch, man. Except in the 9th inning when he has to make a fielding play, then he's not so clutch. Yeah.
I mean, at the time that was big because, again, you were thinking, boy, the Pirates are coming back here with a 3-2 lead, and what a break that they won that game because David Justice just missed and that's not something you see in baseball very often.
No.
Where a guy misses, that's just routine. Like you're touching the bags as you go past them. But you do have to touch them, and if you do miss it, then
if Bonds just would have made a better throw, he would have been out at home. Even like he didn't even make that great of a throw because he stumbled so badly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But fortunately, he got a reprieve by Justice.
Yeah.
Not touching third, and it was good. It was actually a very good call by the umpire because they did not have the replay in baseball back then. But when you slow it down and see the replay, he actually did miss by just a hair. All right, let's go to Super Bowl 13 between the Steelers and Cowboys for our next lucky break. And most people were thinking, oh yeah, you're probably going to talk about Jackie Smith dropping the ball in the end zone, right?
He would be the sickest man in America. Yeah,
he would be. But that's actually not what I'm going to talk about for my lucky break here, because that play in my opinion, is very overrated as a mistake for a bunch of reasons. But I'll save that rant for another episode.
I think you should rant it now.
Well, I could actually probably devote an entire episode solely to just how sports
Oh,
of that
wow,
era
all right.
were
Well, this-
distorted, by the kind of the baby boomer media. I think
I
there's all
would the
kinds of
baby
false
boomer
narratives.
media. Wow. I just figured it was a Dallas because it was Dallas. It was like overblown, maybe.
Well, I think there's a lot of things from that era, whether it's Jackie Smith or Carlton Fisk or Joe Namath. I mean, there's a lot of things from that era where I feel like they got made into bigger things, more significant things than they deserve to be.
Well,
But-
there
but
you
if-
go. Let's save it for another episode.
Yeah. Again, I digress. I will stop on that.
We teased it. Yeah, tune in for that episode. It should be
Tune in for Tim rants against the generation
his
that's ahead
parents.
of him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll be popular amongst many of our listeners.
Hey, no, I think are we both Gen X, Tim, or are we?
Yeah,
kind
we are.
of-
We are Gen Xers. Yeah.
We're later Gen Xers, so and nobody cares about us anyway. We're like that generation in the 50s that was after the baby boomers, but before Gen X, or before whatever. Nobody cares about us. It's all millennials and Gen Z, and nobody
That's
cares
fine.
about us.
Nobody on a podcast can blame Gen X media for inventing
Yeah.
false narratives.
Yeah.
Like I can blame the baby boomers. No, the lucky break I actually wanted to talk about in Super Bowl 13 happens after the Jackie Smith play. So in the fourth quarter, Franco Harris, he's just scored to make it 28-17 Steelers. There's a great story behind that play too, but we'll save that for another episode as well. I think we really need to do an episode at some point on the 78 Steelers. So 28-17 Steelers, fourth quarter, Franco Harris scores. So now the Steelers.
Oh, I know what you're talking about with that play too. That's on the safety, isn't it? Yeah, that guy's a cocky. Yeah, that's going to be a good episode. All right, I'll save that. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Steelers score a touchdown, right? So now they have to kick off back to the Cowboys. And on that ensuing kickoff, they catch a huge break. And to hear about what happened, let's go to the legendary voice of NFL films, Mr. John Facenda.
Speaking of God, wow. Maybe Stevie Johnson should have blamed John Facenda.
On the ensuing kickoff, Roy Jarella slipped, and his kick bounced directly to defensive tackle Randy White. A cast on White's fractured thumb prevented him from getting a grip on the ball, and it squirted loose before he was hit.
Fumble! Ball loose! Still fighting for it at the 21. It is Pittsburgh's ball. Holy mackerel!
Holy mackerel. Oh, okay. I always didn't like that because if you watch this NFL Films recap of the Super Bowl, they don't give the Steelers any credit, if I remember correctly. It's all, oh, poor Dallas. Jackie Smith dropped the ball. Oh, this guy had a broken hand. And he dropped the ball when he got hit. I'm sorry, John Facenda, you're wrong. Don't, who are you going to believe? Your lion eyes or John Facenda? I mean...
Well,
even Steve Sable apologized for the Super Bowl III NFL films. He said it focused too much on the Colts. It should have focused more on the Jets. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what happens there is that Roy Jarella, the Steelers kicker, he slips and he falls down, and that it basically is like a squib kick, but not an intentional squib kick.
Yeah, and it really should have given the Cowboys good field position,
Right.
but the guy he had a broken hand, but he didn't just drop the ball. He got hit and dropped the ball, and I don't know what to tell you. Don't hold it in your broken hand. I mean, you do have two hands,
That's the lucky break because Randy White, first of all, Randy White's a defensive tackle. So, I mean, him running with a football.
Yeah. Maybe you just would have been smart just to fall down, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't blame a guy for trying to get some yards either. So
yeah, but then, like you said, having a cast on the hand that you're holding the ball with, also unfortunate. Again, the odds, the ball wasn't supposed to come to him. He was a guy. He was one of the guys trying to block for the kick returner. And the ball coming to him, and he picks it up, and then that happens. What a stroke of luck that was. The Steelers fall on it. The next play, Terry Bradshaw hits Lynn Fawn for a touchdown. That
Hey,
ends up being-
you're allowed to play defense after that too. Dallas was allowed, who Hollywood Henderson could have got a sack since Terry Bradshaw can't spell cat. I mean, come on.
Well, it's
Boo-hoo-hoo, America's team lost.
It's still a lucky break. I mean, the ball, Gorilla falling down, like you said, Steve, 28-17. What really should have happened there is that the Cowboys get the ball at like the 45-yard line because Gorilla slipped. And now they have a chance to potentially win to cut the lead significantly. But when Bradshaw hits Swan on a touchdown, that ends up being the dagger. It ends up being the game-winning score, actually, because the Cowboys do get a couple more touchdowns in the final minutes. But because of that Bradshaw to Swan touchdown, they can't overcome the score. So that play actually was pretty significant. So go ahead.
No, I just gonna say I don't know. It just annoys me that they made a lot of excuses for Dallas in that NFL Films thing. But hey, whatever.
I agree, but it's a lucky break. I mean, sorry, your kicker falling down, and
Roy Girella was a class. Should be in the Hall of Fame for that.
And then having the guy fumble it, and then having this, and then having
because they could have. There were all kinds of Cowboys around. They could have fell on the fumble too. So
right. So. Very fortunate and really kind of talk about the improbability of that, right? Your kicker messes up the kickoff, but then the guy returning it fumbles it. And then the Steelers get the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. I mean, that is so improbable. Or was it? Let's back up a few years to Super Bowl IX between the Steelers and Vikings. And once again, let's allow John Facenda to tell us what happens.
Despite their mistakes and the absolute dominance of Pittsburgh in the first half, the Vikings were only 2 points down and would receive the second half kickoff. Roy Girella slipped and squibbed his kick along the rain-soaked polyturf. But Viking veteran Bill Brown, number 30, couldn't handle the wet kick, and Pittsburgh had the biggest break of the game. The ball in great field position on the Minnesota 30-yard line.
Wow, I didn't realize. I forgot about. I did not realize that happened twice.
Yep.
Well, that happens when you play on the poly turf. So whatever poly turf is,
whatever that is. And a couple of plays after that happens, Franco Harris scores what will be the game-winning touchdown of that Super Bowl. So there you have it, Steve. The Super Steelers dynasty of the 1970s.
Just total luck.
Literally built off the back of our kicker falling down.
It's total luck. If you listen to John Facenda,
but that's unbelievable that happened twice. Like Girella, first of all, how many times does a kicker fall down when he's making a kickoff?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kickoff.
It happened. I've seen it happen. But
of course,
normally it's not like anything positive comes out of it. So.
And normally it's not, leading to the game-winning score in two different Super Bowls. It's just unbelievable that happened twice. Unbelievable that twice the opposing team couldn't handle the ball, and twice the Steelers got a huge break. Roy Girella, like you said, hero for falling down. Fun fact, by the way, Super Bowl 13 was Girella's last ever game in the NFL, and that's probably why the Steelers stopped winning Super Bowls soon thereafter, because Matt Barr and Gary Anderson could stand.
Yeah. Oh my.
Luck doesn't always just happen on the field, though. Sometimes it can happen off the field. So let's talk about a couple instances of that. In the 1970 NFL draft, the consensus number one pick was a quarterback out of Louisiana Tech, some guy named Terry Bradshaw. So who had the number one pick that year? Well, in 1969, there were two NFL teams who finished tied for the worst record in football. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Bears. They had each only won one game that season. Now, the Bears' lone victory came against the Steelers, which in today's NFL would be an easy tiebreaker because, they finished tied, but the Bears won the head-to-head matchup, so the Steelers would get that pick. But in 1970, the NFL doesn't have that tiebreaker, or really any tiebreaker. In fact, their methodology for determining who has the number one pick out of these two teams
coin flip
is to simply flip a coin.
Yeah.
So this coin flip is held in a hotel in New Orleans. And Pete Rozelle is the NFL commissioner. He's the one flipping the coin. And he asks Dan Rooney if he wants to call it. But Rooney defers to Bears executive Ed McCaskey to make the call. And apparently what happened there, Steve, you might know the story better than I do, but apparently Art Sr. had always told Dan that anytime you do a coin toss, you should always defer the decision to the opponent.
I think I don't remember what his logic. Does he explain why his logic on that was?
I couldn't find that. I mean, it's just something about.
I remember something to that story when I did the Chief podcast, but yeah, and then of course they lost the coin flip.
Right. Yeah. So McCaskey calls heads. And Rozelle throws the coin, by the way, was a 1921 silver dollar, in case you were curious. A little piece of trivia there. Throws it.
We can't find out why the Chief always deferred.
Right, but we know what the coin was.
Yeah.
So it's tails. And there was a Chicago Sun-Times writer in the room covering that for the Chicago papers. His name was Jack Griffin, and he shouts, "McCaskey, you bum." Because he called heads. And
How can you be a bum? It's like, you bum. Why didn't you call tails?
Tails never fail, Steve.
Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah. Oh my
God. So more trivia on that coin. Rozelle actually gives Rooney the winning coin, and that night Rooney and his wife went to dinner with Chuck Noll and his wife, and Rooney actually gives the coin to Chuck Noll, and he says, "Here, this is the beginning of good things to come."
Oh, that's nice. Wow. See, now that's the Chief, though, because he knew how to deal with people. He's a good dude, so good for him.
So yeah, I mean, the Steelers get the pick. They select Terry Bradshaw, and of course, the rest is history. So fast forward to 2005, and another Pittsburgh team is down on its luck. The Penguins are coming off of a horrible season. They're coming off of a lockout, but they, along with 29 other NHL teams, are put into a lottery for the consensus number 1 draft pick that year, a kid from Cole Harbor by the name of Sidney Crosby. And this time, it's not 50-50 like it was for the Steelers with Bradshaw. In fact, the Penguins only have a 6.4% chance of winning the lottery. But sure enough, the ball comes up Pittsburgh, and once again, the rest is history.
I think they had what's his name, Craig Patrick. Didn't they? They said he was always lucky in those things. So,
yep, he was the good luck charm, and
yeah,
it worked. So yeah, two very lucky. Again, a coin flip and a lottery ball, really leading to two of the most significant athletes in the history of Pittsburgh sports. So, like we said, good luck not always on the field. Sometimes it's off the field as well. All right, last but not least, maybe the greatest stroke of luck in Pittsburgh sports history. This one really doesn't need any kind of introduction or context. It's this.
22 seconds remaining. And Bradshaw is back and looking again. Bradshaw running out of the pocket, looking for somebody to throw to, fires it downfield, and there's a collision. It's cut out of the air. The ball is pulled in by Franco Harris. Harris is going for a touchdown for Pittsburgh.
So if you're not familiar with that play, it's called the Immaculate Reception.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's kind of an obscure little
big
play.
Dill around here. Yeah.
So yeah, we did a whole episode about that. Very famous Pittsburgh play. Like I said, certainly not gonna go rehash the details of that, but very lucky bounce that ball took off of Jack Tatum, and it was off of Jack Tatum. Did
Frenchie whisper that to you last night?
Yeah. Frenchie, if you call, like we said in that other episode, has no idea who hit the ball because he got his bell dung. But very lucky that ball bounced, and very lucky that Franco Harris was where he was and was able to scoop it up and run it in. So I would say that's probably the biggest lucky break in the history of Pittsburgh sports. Obviously, spawned the Steelers dynasty. So that's our list of lucky breaks. Steve, any that you can think of that I forgot?
I'm sure there are probably one or two we don't remember, but I mean, it's a good list. I like that. I like the one where Yager shot it off a defenseman 10 feet away. Well, I guess it's hockey. So how many meters was that? Was that 15 meters or I don't know.
Again, I think that you just, again, in sports, you you have good teams, but sometimes you just need things to bounce your way sometimes. And those are all instances of when that happened. And of course, we could probably just as easily, Steve, do an episode on bad luck. Times where the ball or the puck or whatever didn't bounce our way. So there's good luck and bad luck, but we want to do a cheery episode. So these are our good luck moments.
Nice.
All right, folks. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Please check us out on the web, on Facebook, on Twitter. And please also tell your friends about our little show here. That's probably our best way of getting new listeners is word of mouth. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.